Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on great radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we continue to celebrate the outdoor lifestyle, to talk about the history and tradition of the outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. I'm here for 3 hours every week, talking about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues, even some wild game cooking. We wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. We will do that once again this week. I've been doing this for a long time. Started out in television news, then moved over to outdoor television, had my own TV show for many, many years. It was on nationally on the Outdoor Channel. It was on the Sportsman Channel. It was on broadcast stations around Michigan. And then a few years ago, I saw the light. And I said, outdoor television, from my perspective, there wasn't much of a future in it. But I had this little thing called the Outdoor Magazine radio show that was a companion venture, a partner to the TV show. I said, you know what, let's get out of TV. And there's more to this story. But I'm not really going to get into it right here. But I got out of television, went into radio, and have never looked back. Radio, podcasting, social media. That's what I do these days. But the purpose, the reason behind all of this is to promote, encourage, and protect in whatever way I can the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in this great state of Michigan. I hope you're enjoying this little bit of a break in the weather. As we're here in the studio today, it's going to be pushing 40. Forecast calls for the next several days to be high 30s, maybe even low 40s. Isn't that a nice break? I tell you, it was so cold and miserable, I didn't even want to go outside. Now, I realize as the guy who makes his living in the outdoors, that's a heck of a thing to say. But no, I just didn't want to at all. But now, I actually went out. I took my walk instead of downstairs on the treadmill yesterday. I ended up walking outside, and it felt good. Was there some slush? Yes. Was there some water? Yes. But there was no ice, so it felt pretty good. So we're getting there. We are getting there. What do I always say is my sure sign that spring is just around the corner? The first thing is a dead skunk in the middle of the road. But it's way too early for that. Or is it? I got a text from my buddy Bill LaShawn the other day. He said, Mike, I just saw my first dead skunk in the middle of the road. So it's coming. It's coming. Now, it's not official until the red-winged blackbirds come back. This is my world, right? And we're going to be a long time before the red-winged blackbirds come back. But that first dead skunk in the middle of the road, it's coming. So I would like to tell you that I took advantage of the break in the weather and went out to the lease property and took down the old man base camp blind that I put up. My grandson Trent and I put up last September. I wanted to get it down so the rain and the cold and the sunshine didn't rot the fabric. It's one of those things that's been on my list. Avery, you got to get out there and take it down. It'll take you an hour and a half from the time you leave the house till you get back. Just get out there and get it done. But I kept getting sidetracked. Here's something else. So I get a text I actually got a phone call from my son James yesterday. He said, hey, you know that blind you've been wanting to take down? He said, I took care of it. What a good son James is. He says, well, I said, I wish, thank you. I don't want to be a burden. I was going to get out there eventually. He said, no. I had to go out there and take a couple of heaters out of the blinds anyway, so it was no big deal. So that's now taken care of, although I wasn't the one who did it. It's off my list. Did you hear about the sturgeon season, Michigan sturgeon season last week? The sturgeon shivaree, the folks from Sturgeon for Tomorrow. It was a longer season this year. It was a whole 48 minutes. The shortest fishing season in Michigan. 48 minutes to take their 6 fish. The biggest one, a 67-inch female, 79.4 pounds, almost an 80-pound fish. How cool is that? How cool is that here in Michigan, we have a resource like a sturgeon fishery? A resource that at one time was on the verge of becoming, I don't want to say extinct, but darn near. And now we have viable sturgeon fisheries in the St. Clair River. We're seeing sturgeon all over the state. They've got a sturgeon spearing season in Black Lake. You look at some of these conservation success stories around our state. Eagles, the return of eagles. I never saw eagles growing up. I didn't see my first eagle till I was 30 years old here in Michigan. And now they're everywhere. And it's because we quit using DDT in the environment and the birds were able to come back. Mother Nature was able to fix things again. Now, are there problems in eagle populations? Yes. But the number of birds, you can see eagles everywhere these days, to the point where, when the grandkids were a little bit younger and they were riding around in the back of my truck, the back seat of my truck, and I'd go, there's an eagle. And they'd look at that and go, yeah, because of them, eagles were like seagulls. They were so common, it was no big deal. Look at our state's turkey population. Now, it is down a little bit over the peak from a few years ago, but turkey populations are down across the country. Again, that's something we never had when I was a kid. Now, turkey hunting is a huge deal in Michigan. One final example, and this is just 3 of many examples. You look at the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery. That population was wiped out from pollution and over-harvesting by commercial fishermen. Then the DNR and sportsmen's groups around the bay decided, let's try to bring back the walleye population using rearing ponds. And now we don't even stock walleye in the bay. It's all natural reproduction, and it's a world-class fishery. So there are some pretty exciting things going on around our state. Also, some interesting things going on around our state. For example, efforts to bring back baiting of white-tailed deer and elk. The elk are inconsequential, though, to bait deer in the Lower Peninsula. I've had a lot of people say to me, hey, baiting's coming back. Do you see the legislature approved it? No, don't get ahead of yourself here. Do I believe baiting is coming back? Yeah, I think it's going to happen. But not quite yet. The state house has approved bringing back baiting. The Senate hasn't yet. The governor hasn't signed off on it yet. I think it will happen because I think there's a movement in this state, good or bad. I personally want to see baiting for whitetails come back. If you, the DNR, want us to take more deer, then give us all the tools to let us do it. And I only say this because I've seen this out where I hunt. The people around us, if they're baiting, they're gonna bring the deer to their property, and I'm not going to get a shot at it. So as much as I would like to see baiting come back, I'll make a prediction right now. It will never come from the Michigan DNR. They are not going to support this. However, if the legislature or NRC does, DNR will have no choice. I would rather see these efforts come from the Natural Resources Commission, not the legislature. I don't want our state politicians to get in the role of managing our wildlife conservation and hunting and fishing issues. That's not their job. They have the power to do it, but it's not their job. It's the NRC's job. So maybe the new NRC will come around and try to make it happen. That would be the best way to address it, in my opinion. Events coming up. Saturday, March 7th, the big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. Trinity Monitor Lutheran Church, my church. I don't own it, but I'm a member there. I used to own it. No, not really. Not really. I felt like I did when I was chairman. Right, Charlie? You know that feeling? Yeah, Charlie's like, yeah, I know that feeling. That's coming up Saturday, March 7th. Go to bidpal.net/Trinity Monitor to get your tickets. Then the Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. That is April 15th. Easy day to remember. Tax day. Reservations will open for that on March 1st. More details as we get closer. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show after the break, a good friend of mine, Steve Windom, formerly of MUCC, now with a group called Outdoor Mentors. We'll talk about that group's efforts to get kids in the outdoors. Then, Myron Gilbert on the competitive side of ice fishing, including the World Championships. In our second hour, Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters in Manistee on wintertime steelheading. Then Tom Weston from the DNR on the new digital kill tags that we can use starting in turkey season. This week's Ask Avery question, if you get a ticket for baiting, how does that affect your ability to hunt in other states? Details coming up. And in hour number 3, John Eberhart, the Whitetail Whisperer, talks about postseason scouting, and we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. There's a broadcast version and a podcast version. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM, and you can hear us north of the bridge, Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes? You can buy one good quality set, snap-on, zip-on, and outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins is for you. If you're a saddle hunter, VersaSkins makes jackets specifically for saddle hunting. Check them out online at versaskins.com, or go to Amazon and do a search for VersaSkins brand. Just change your skin for the season you're in. My first guest this week has become a really good friend of mine. I have enjoyed working with him over the past several years. I think he is a hardcore outdoorsman. I think he's a dedicated conservationist, and I think he is very, very effective at bringing people in to the outdoor lifestyle. His name is Steve Windom. And I worked with Steve when he was at MUCC, worked very closely with him on many projects, including the Avery golf outing, which is still scheduled for Friday, July 31st at the West Branch Country Club. Well, Steve has now moved on. He's with a new group, and as you can imagine, it is an outdoor-based group, and I want to talk more with him about that as he is on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Steve Windom, welcome back to Outdoor Magazine Radio. How are you?
I am doing great, Mike. Thank you so much. It's great to be back and talking with you again.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. You're one of the good guys, Steve. You are very well respected in the industry. Tell me about this group that you're with now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. So the new organization the full name of it is called Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, but we just say Outdoor Mentors for short, and you might actually see some rebranding coming down the pipe. But our organization was founded in 2002 out in Wichita, Kansas through a Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. In 2006, we split from that program and made ourselves a 501c3 nonprofit. And for a long time, we were just out west in Kansas operating and getting young people into the outdoors. But currently now we are in 7 states through Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, jumping into Michigan this year. And we've got a bold plan to be in 40 states in the next 4 years. And our goal is to get the next generation into the outdoors and curb the declining hunting numbers that we're seeing across the nation.
40 states in 4 years. Are you guys going to sleep at all during the next 4 years?
Well, probably not, but it's for a good cause, right? As a father of 3 myself, I know the impact that the outdoors can have on a young person. And there are too many kids out there that have an interest in this, or maybe just don't even know about the fact of what the outdoors can instill in them through confidence and responsibility and connected to the land. And, there's a lot of people who want to help turn these numbers around. There's a lot of people who have very fond memories of their time in the outdoors, and they want to pass that on to the next generation. And we're here to help them do that.
Well, I don't care what outdoor-related group it is that you're talking with these days. When you're talking strategy, the future, what it looks like, the lack of young people involved in the outdoors is right near the top of that list. There's no doubt that it's a problem. It's a concern. But how do you address it, Steve?
It is. Well, we address it by offering one-on-one mentorship, a safe, comfortable spot. You remove barriers to access. So all of our programs are free for the youth and their family. All the young people have to be accompanied by a parent or a guardian. So it could be a big cousin, a big brother, a big sister, an aunt or uncle, whoever wants to get them outdoors. And there's no cost to it. So that's one of the barriers we're removing, that they get to come out and they get to enjoy any wide variety of pursuits. We're kicking off Operation Longbeard here in the state of Michigan for the turkey season coming up. So we need mentors, we need access, we need youth to sign up. And it doesn't have to be brand new people either. It could be a deer hunter that's hunting whitetail with their father, but now they want to try duck hunting. Now they want to try deer hunting. We run our programs from ages 10 to 22. So even those older youth that we have that maybe fell out of it in high school or got busy with sports and they want to get back into it. And it's not a one and done program. So a lot of our R3 initiatives introduce you to it, but then you're kind of on your own. Our youth can come back as many times as they want and participate in as many events as they want, so they can try different disciplines. We're working with Michigan trappers and predator callers to get kids out with coyote hunts and running trap lines. We need access on duck clubs to help take care of the whitetail doe population. If you have private land, you can get a tax receipt for access. And we carry insurance on all of our hunts. And so we really just want to, offer those opportunities and get people out there and allow them to experience the great outdoors.
So you're looking for kids, you're looking for access, you're looking for opportunities, and you got to be looking for sponsors too. I mean, you say there's no cost to the kids. Somebody's got to pay for all this stuff.
Well, yeah, that's my job as development director. We are out there looking for partners and donors and sponsors. You can sponsor a specific type of hunt. You can donate to our general operations. We're running, eventually we'll have over 200 events here in the state of Michigan. And the other states that we're established in, we're running 150, 200 events. We're getting, last year we got nearly 2,000 kids in the outdoors. We also need mentors though. So that's a cool part of this R3 initiative. One of those R's is reactivation. And how about somebody who maybe fell out of the hunting world or doesn't have time, but they want to see that next generation? So we can also reactivate hunters to be mentors to the next generation. So we need mentors, we need access, and we need kids.
You've mentioned R3 a couple of times. Remind me what that is.
It is reactivation, retention, and recruitment of our outdoors men and women. So we're doing all three. So we are recruiting young people into the outdoors, getting them on their first hunt, or allowing them to experience a different pursuit from what they've already known. We are, reactivating those hunters that have maybe fallen out of it. They can get back into it by leading a young person into the outdoors. And then our retention. So that speaks to the idea that it's not a one and done program with us. Kids can come back. Mentors can host as many hunts as they're able to. They can host one a year. They can host, 20 a year. And so we're hitting all three of those R's and making sure that we're doing our part to, again, really turn around that nationwide decline of hunters in the outdoors.
Is this the solution to the problem, or is this one part of the solution?
It's one part, and I think it's important to point out that, for all the great, you're seeing a lot of things go on in the world with advocacy right now. You have the boundary waters fight that's going on at the federal level. We have a lot of attacks on our outdoor heritage here in the state of Michigan. And I would say to any of those other large conservation groups, even our local hook and bullet clubs, like, who is your next member? Who is your next advocate? Who is your next volunteer for BHA and TU and all those people that are doing great public work out with, hands-on conservation? Who is that next volunteer of yours? Who is that next board member? And even to the industry, for crossbows and firearms and camo gear, who's your next customer? Who is that person that's going to run your bow their whole life because they fell in love with it the first time they went out in the woods? And so we're looking at everybody to say, how do we fix this and what's the long-term play? And we can be the catalyst and the genesis of this next generation. And then they fall in line with the great work that the other conservation groups are doing, and we're a pipeline for them as well.
So this all started out west in Kansas, the great state of Kansas. But I would think, Michigan is the perfect place to really jump on this and try to make something happen, I would think, Steve.
It is, and that's why it's been targeted as a state to come into. And so we're looking at a very strategic expansion. We're not going to stretch ourselves too thin, but we are going to push ourselves hard to hit that 40 states in a 4-year goal. I'm the only staff here currently in Michigan. We do have a program coordinator over in Wisconsin who oversees Michigan right now. We have a plan to have a program coordinator dedicated to the state of Michigan before the end of the year. Ideally, this summer, we'll be bringing someone on to be a full-time program coordinator here in Michigan. And then, honestly, if the need is there and we hit capacity, we'll have 2 program coordinators. We'll have 3 program coordinators. And so if we can get the mentors, if we can get the support and the donations, and we can get the kids, we will meet the need of whatever the state needs us to do. And we're looking at Pennsylvania, we're looking at Tennessee, we're looking at a lot of states as we move east and west to bring our programming to alleviate that burden, remove barriers to access, and get kids outdoors.
So how does somebody get involved? I mean, the website is outdoormentors.org. Is that where we go? Can we sign up there?
Yeah, outdoormentors.org. You can sign up to be a mentor. You can register for an event if there is one posted. You can obviously just as a youth just sign up to be notified when events are posted as well. So there's a general sign up for our youth that they can just get in our system and be notified when events come to their area. You can make donations. You can sign up and learn more about being a board member or even just being a supporter of ours. Outdoormentors.org. You can see the great impact we've made across the 7 states we're in. We're hoping to be in 8 states or 9 states by the end of the year. And we're going to deliver over 2,000 events and get over, probably more than that, because some of these hunts aren't just 1-to-1. There's duck hunts where you can take 2 or 3 kids out. There's pheasant hunts where we can do that. And so thinking about ways that you can make an impact in the next generation and also have some fun alongside us.
Steve, as a father of 3 and a guy who's worked in the conservation field for a lot of years, and I can hear it in your voice, this has got to be pretty exciting.
It is. It's very unique and it's very exciting. It's a single focus now, and previously, we did a lot of great things at MUCC, and I look forward to partnering with them again. Their youth camp has a great pipeline to, there's 300 kids a year that go through that camp, and they host a pheasant hunt for those students, but there's only 13 spots available for that hunt after camp is over. And I'd love to be a great partner with all those groups, all of the hunt and fishing clubs that we worked with, all of the different groups and organizations, thinking about ways that we can get kids outdoors. I've seen the growth it's given my kids, the confidence it's given my kids, the wonder in their eyes when they see that long-beard strut across the field, or that buck steps out for the first time and their eyes go as big as saucers. It's a great place to teach life lessons and also to connect and bond with your children, and it instills in them a love and a passion for the natural world as well.
Well, Steve, I think this is an outstanding opportunity. I have some things in mind. I'm going to reach out to you privately and talk some things over, but the group is Outdoor Mentors. Pass it on, Outdoor Mentors, the website outdoormentors.org. Steve, keep it up. And you and I will be in touch. I'm pretty excited about this, and we'll talk again.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right, Steve Windom. I almost said of MUCC, of Pass It On Outdoor Mentors. We'll take a break. When we come back, Myron Gilbert talking about the competitive side of ice fishing. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Right now, the focus at Linwood Beach is ice fishing. For the first time in a few years, we've got really good ice across the entire state. Not just big water like Lake Erie or Saginaw Bay, but the inland lakes are locked up tight. Myron Gilbert is very excited about that. Myron is a hardcore ice fisherman. I talked to Myron last year when we had the World Ice Fishing Championships right here in Michigan. But there's more going on in the world of competitive ice fishing, and Myron's on the phone line to talk more about that. Myron, welcome back. How have you been?
I have been great. Looking forward to finishing out a great ice fishing season here.
Well, you've got great ice this year. There's no doubt about that.
Been working out good. The weather's been conducive for it. Been a few years, it ebbs and flows. The last time we could really get on the Great Lakes good was in 14 and 15. We had a couple of consecutive years where it was really good on the Great Lakes. But everything's locked up. Everybody's fishing all over and having a great time, and I'm sure enjoying it.
So, Myron, last year, the World Ice Fishing Championships were here in Michigan. Are you coming back here again? Is that what's going on? Or help me figure out what the process is now.
No, we held the World Championships for all the countries in Lakeview, Michigan last year, and the good Lord, blessed us. We got ice because you never know. Some years, we'd scheduled that, year and a half in advance, and so always in weather. Boy, I was one nervous wreck until we got good weather and everything in the end. It all turned out good. The good Lord blessed us on all that, so I'm pretty darn happy. But Lakeview has kind of adopted us now after we ran the World Championships there. It was very beneficial. It was a small town community like I'm from, and they were so good there. It was just phenomenal, the outpouring of the town and everything. And so they kind of liked us, and so now they're helping us. They've kind of adopted the world team as a base, and they're helping us with a fundraiser for next year going to Kazakhstan. We're going to Sweden this year. So we're conducting our tryouts for going to Kazakhstan next year because Sweden is the later part of March, and we wouldn't be able to come from there and have tryouts because there won't be no ice probably, getting into April and stuff. The ice belt melts off there. But we're holding. We've had 3 qualifiers: one in Montana, one in northern Minnesota, and one in Michigan so far. And everybody that tried out there that will be invited to the final shootout, which is going to be at the end of the month here. It's going to be a Thursday, Friday, then Saturday we're going to have an event on the lake and kids clinics and a fundraiser on Saturday evening, to help us out and everything. And then we're doing the final heat to determine the team on Tamarack Lake on that Sunday.
What dates? If you said a date, I didn't hear you, Myron.
28th and 29th of February.
Okay.
The end of February, yeah. It's the last weekend in February there, yes.
So are these tryouts open to anybody?
The tryouts are, but the final one here is you had to attend one of the 3 tryouts to make world team, and then we're picking from them. Everybody that went to those, then they will come and do the final shootout there. We'll probably take the top 6 from each one of the qualifiers. And then last year's team are automatically in for trying out, because they're already on the team this year. But most of them all came to qualifiers anyway. It's good practice for them. Hang with everybody, teach everybody. We're trying to teach everybody about the format in world competition because it's quite different than a lot of our tournaments. In our tournaments here, we get to do the whole lake, or big areas of fish and fish wherever you want. In world competition, you're in about a football field and a half area, and you got to fish off inside that area. So it's quite competitive in there. You have to fish right up against the good guys. You can't get off and find a secret spot. There ain't gonna be one of those.
So I want to make sure I understand. So I want to make sure I understand this. So all of the anglers are in that football field and a half size area.
Yes. It's like when we're in world competition, however many teams we had, 10 came to the U.S. So there would be. It's usually it's a 5-man team tournament. It's a team tournament 5. So there's 5 zones for each day of competition, and then we do a random draw. One from each country goes into the zones. And then you shoot it out against them, and then there ain't no getting away from the good guys. They're all in there. So it's you have a couple flags, so it's like a chess game fishing against them inside the zone. Usually you set 4 stakes, pull a string, and you got to fish inside the zone.
Hang tight, Myron. Boy, talk about head-to-head competition. We're talking to Myron Gilbert about the competitive side of ice fishing. If you want to learn more, go to the website usangling.org. That's usangling.org. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, more on this process of making the Team USA for ice fishing and then going over to, what do you say, Kazakhstan to ice fish? How cool? Who would think that you could take something like ice fishing that'll take you to another country? So we'll talk about that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold. WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT, 600 AM, 93.5 FM. They're ice fishing in Escanaba right now, as they are in most places across the great state of Michigan. Myron Gilbert is very much involved in the world of ice fishing, competitive ice fishing. Myron, are you the coach of the team, the coordinator? What would we call you?
I am the coach. I fished from 2010 to 2017 as a competitor, and then 2018 on, I've been the coach. I got a little old here. I'm 66 now, and couldn't quite keep up with all the young stallions and stuff, so I was really good at chewing them out. I'm a long-time charter boat captain. I'm retired now. 30. So I'm used to running guests, and they're like my kids. All my guys are. And I'm chewing them out. Then they turn on me like pit bulls most of the time.
Hey, where did you charter? Were you a Lake Michigan captain?
Lake Michigan and Lake Erie. I ran for 35 years. I ran, in the western basin of Lake Erie out of several ports there, and then always out of Ludington for salmon for a long time. It was like my second home, and I sure enjoyed that. But this retirement ain't that bad. That salmon fishing, getting up 4 every morning for 2 months at a time, that got pretty old. And now I go for fun, and more of that. It's still great, but that getting up 4 every day to work there, that was rough.
See, that's why I like my walleye fishing, Saginaw Bay walleye. They don't care what time you get out there, so that's why I like it.
Oh, yeah, walleye fishing. Yeah, banker hours. You go, they bite whenever you go. I love walleyes. They're beautiful fish.
So what about your ice fishing competitions then? Are they hardcore? Are you guys out there on the ice for 12 hours? Yeah. Is it a limited time or what?
No, we practice a lot, but the competition in world competition is always a 3-hour heat. And there's a 2-day. It's a 2-day tournament, 2 3-hour heats, very regimented, regulated. There's the whip bells and whistles. And I enjoyed Mongolia when I was over there because they started the heats with a shotgun. They're real rednecks over there. I loved them. They kind of suited us. I knew it like a lot of camouflage clothing. They live off the land. Mongolia was a gorgeous country, as is Kazakhstan too. So
2 3-hour heats. Oh, okay, a 3-hour heat over 2 days, and everybody's fishing in the same area. That's
in the same zone.
Same zone. That's kind of crazy. Well, it's kind of crazy, but it's kind of cool too.
Mm-hmm. It works out. It really sorts it out. they switch up everybody on day 2. It's a random draw. Five anglers, are all put back in the pool, and you get one American, one Ukrainian, one Finn, one Mongolia, one from every country in each zone, and it's 5 zones, so it's a 5-man team tournament. U.S. has 5 with an alternate. The way we do the alternate is whoever does worst on day 1, the lowest finisher is taken out, and the alternate comes in and fishes. And we have an alternate in case somebody gets sick or something happens, fall and break, anything could happen.
Yeah.
So you have an alternate guy to come in.
So are they fishing for total weight or number of fish?
Total weight. It's always total weight. That's why it worked out good to have tryouts in the tournament in Michigan, because in the other states, you can't do catch and release, because if you put it in a bucket or something, you have to keep that fish, and then you have to stop at a limit. In world competition, is 3 hours as many fish as you can catch. In other countries, it's never a problem to do that, but in the United States, we have limits you have to live with, And I tried having the state getting an exemption and stuff, but that didn't work. But then the state of Michigan doesn't have the cull law like Wisconsin and Minnesota has, so we can put them in a bucket as long as you have less than your legal limit.
Yeah.
Let's say we're bad fishing too, bluegills and crappies. And the lake we put it on was a lake that had a lot of small fish in it, which suited the Europeans, and it worked good for competition. And it worked extremely well because they weren't in the bucket over 20 minutes, half hour at the most. And we take them new water and switch the buckets out. And it was the first time it ever been done was in Lake Michigan. And there was a lot of apprehension. Oh, my goodness. The night before, the meeting before we went into this was horrible because they had every scenario. 2 guys are running and they spill their buckets together. What do you do? Oh, my gosh.
What if?
What if? And they were killing me. Oh, but then after the first day, it worked so good. There was never another question about it. And the international organization was thrilled because they're wanting to make it ice fishing actually an Olympic event. They're looking down the road.
There we go.
And one of the requirements was you have to do catch and release because the world ain't going to tolerate the deal. So we're good with that. We were the first ones to pull that off, and I've got a lot of accolades for that, being able to pull that off successfully.
Well, Myron, the fact that you brought the World Ice Fishing Championships to Michigan, to Lakeview, Michigan last year is a huge thing. So congrats to you. Keep up the good work. Good luck on the efforts this winter. And listen, I'd love to stay in touch with you. I find this very interesting.
All right, Mike, I sure appreciate your time and everything, and all I got to say is go USA, baby.
Go USA, 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 USA.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it.
All right, Myron, keep it up. Myron Gilbert, usangling.org is the website, usangling.org. When he brought the World Ice Fishing Championships to Michigan last year, how cool is that? We'll take a break for the top of the hour. Coming back in our second hour, we're going to continue on the fishing theme, but we're going to talk river steelhead with Captain Paul Schlafley. And we'll talk with Tom Weston from the DNR. And this week's Ask Avery question will wrap up the hour.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. I did a fundraiser last weekend. And actually, it turned out very well. First-year event for Brian's House Hospice in Bay County. And one of the folks came up to me and said, "Hey, I really want to meet that Ken Hunter guy." Ken has been the guy who has introduced the show for many, many years now. If I sometimes, and I haven't seen Ken in years, we correspond electronically these days, as is so much of our jobs these days. Anyway, I appreciate you listening to the show. As always, I encourage you to listen to the broadcast version of the show if you can. The reason for that is that, the broadcast stations are the heart and soul of this whole outdoor magazine franchise. I provide the content of the show to the broadcast stations before the podcast version is uploaded. The broadcast and the podcast, the content is exactly the same, but the broadcast stations get the content first. If you can't listen to the broadcast version of the show, meaning you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, and there are reasons for that sometime maybe on a podcast, a straight podcast, maybe I'll talk about it more. But if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you can't hear the show on a radio station, it's nice to know there is a podcast available. That podcast is available on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on all of the usual podcast outlets. So be sure to check that out. Also, I do love podcasting. And I do a podcast each month for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Pontoons, and Killer Food Plots. And we will be doing a Killer Food Plots podcast today, Charlie, after the show is done. So keep an ear out for that. I was telling you in the first hour of the show, as we were talking about ice fishing, we were going to switch gears a little bit and talk about open water fishing. Not big water, not like out there on Lake Michigan, but how about some wintertime steelheading? I was wondering about this the other day. With the bitter, cold, frigid temps we had, I wondered if the rivers were just locked right up. So I reached out to Paul Schlafley, Captain Paul Schlafley at Riverside Charters in Manistee, riversidecharters.com. I said, "Paul, can we talk about this?" He said, "Absolutely." And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Paul, welcome back. How have you been?
I'm doing good, buddy. Just getting through this winter. It was a tough one. It was really cold.
Were you able, before it warmed up here in this nice little warm spell we're having now, were the rivers locked right up? Were you able to get out, Paul?
Not much in January. It was pretty locked up. I mean, guys could fish up towards Tippy Dam, but it was, the river was pretty slushy, and so I mainly fished the Big Manistee River, so I know like the PM locked up, and I just started fishing, so it probably has been open for now for I don't know, a week and a half. I mean, the whole river isn't open yet, but the upper part's open, fishable now. Plenty of fish around too. So it's starting. We finally got some warm weather coming, so I think things will get rolling here now. So
yeah,
kind of ready for it. That's for sure.
When you say the upper stretch up by the dam, are you fishing right below the dam? Can you see the dam, or are you downstream a ways?
I don't, but a lot of people do. I mean, a lot of people put in right at Tippy Dam and fish right up to the dam there, the Coffrey. That's really good fishing up there. At times it can be really killer fishing because the fish can't go anywhere. So they're, it can be good. But yeah, it's the mid section downs, the lower sections is still locked up yet as of at least yesterday. So I'm not fishing today. I'll be out tomorrow, but it's going to open up with this weather we got coming. Things should get rolling here. Seems to be plenty of fish around. This fall was really good fishing, so should be a good spring. Numbers are pretty good.
So how late in the fall were you able to fish before things got locked up?
I think my last trip I ran before it got cold was like the 1st of January was I think the last trip I ran. And then it got really cold, so it just pretty much shut everything down. So it helped the ice fishing guys out.
Yeah, help the ice fishing guys. It didn't help you. I mean, you missed the whole month of January.
Yeah, and I kind of always count on that. I mean, January's a hard month to generally fish. It seems like we always get a cold snap in January. So I kind of take my break that time of year. So I usually go. I went to Florida actually for a couple of weeks to get a break with the weather. Something to do different stuff.
Good for you. Do you fish while you're down there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I do. Well, I guess what else is life fishing, I guess.
Yeah, you spend all year fishing up here, and then you go to Florida to take a break, and you fish down there too.
Yep, it's just in your blood. You know, that's all I've ever done. So, fished and hunted.
How is that saltwater fishing different, and how are the fish different than what we see up here in Michigan?
I think it's easier. It's easier in our fishing. And of course, they're all, there's so many varieties of fish they catch down there. It's crazy, and you can go down to the Keys and catch all kinds of different fish, tarpon and snappers and yellowfin, stuff like that. And so down there, they definitely got different, where we're kind of just locked in a couple, few species of fish. Where they got all kinds of options to do. If one thing's slow, they got something else they can go catch, I got buddies that go down there and guide for the winter, so I usually will go fishing with them. And so they kind of, in my guiding circle, that's all I've ever did is guide pretty much my whole life. These younger guys are getting into it. They'll go down to Florida for 4 months and then come back here in the good time when the weather's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Which that works out pretty good for guys.
I see those guys catching tarpon down there. That's one fish I've never caught, but man, catching a tarpon, that might be the top of the heap right there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's a battle. They jump and you got to chase them around, and it's crazy. But, yeah, old timer Jimmy Bennett. I don't know if I ever talked to him about him, but that's what he did. He guided down there all winter and then come back, and that was the first tarpon I ever caught was with him. He's actually in the Fishing Hall of Fame. So
oh, really?
He's definitely a legend.
Well, and now I think, like you mentioned the young guys, Lance Keene is going down. He does the same thing, doesn't he?
Yep, that's Lance learned it from Jimmy.
Oh.
Jimmy taught him it. And Jimmy offered me to do it, and I still couldn't steer away from coming, leaving here. I don't know. It was tough for me. I thought about it, but I still like it up north here. I can go down there and visit, and that's good enough for me. I don't think I'll ever guide down there.
Well, Paul, you're doing something right because you've done it forever. You've done it since you were a kid. You're booked up with return clients on the big water and in the river. You're one of the most respected guides in the state. So I'd say you've done it right.
No, I appreciate that, Mike. It's a great lifestyle. I like it and always enjoyed it. Enjoy the people, meeting people. You meet a lot of people, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool way to make a living, and I look forward to different groups of guys that come every year and fish with me, and they become friends, and it's more than just clients to me. A lot of people. So it's a great way to make a living, and kind of a tough way. It's a grind. You got to do it every day and work weekends, and it does take away a little bit from my family. My daughter kind of always said she regretted some stuff because I was always working weekends and stuff. So every job's got its pros and cons, and I wouldn't want to work in a factory. I couldn't do it. I feel bad for guys that have to work in a factory. And, you're locked in, or at least I'm outdoors and trying to catch fish.
Catch fish and catching a bunch of them. Yeah. You talk about that grind, though, that summertime salmon fishing, the August, where you're running 2 a day and you're getting 3 hours of sleep. And, man, that's what I think would really catch up with me. I couldn't do it.
It gets tough. Yeah, anyway, if you got to run doubles to make a good, decent living. So, it's different. You kind of get in a mode to do it. And older I get, the harder it's getting.
Sure.
Get to do it. And actually, I got another captain who helps me out, so it kind of gives me a break. And you hate to turn the charters down, but I got a good captain, and people are happy with him. And he'll run some of my trips to give me a break and whatnot. So it works out good.
Good. Hang tight, Paul. You know how this works. I've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters in Manistee. His website, riversidecharters.com. riversidecharters.com. When we come back, we'll turn our attention back to the river. Wintertime steelhead fishing on the river. Paul is one of the best out there, but he's also one of the best on the Big Lake. I remember several years ago when I had the TV show, I went out with Paul. It was an early spring trolling trip. We were targeting brown trout, running the troughs, parallel with shore, in tight, my beloved skinny water, I call it. And we landed a 20-pound brown trout. Paul picks up that fish. He looks at it like, this is the biggest brown I've ever seen in my life. Paul looks at it and goes, yeah, that's a good fish. And he throws it in the cooler. I'm like, hey, we got to get some video of this fish. We got to take some pictures. But for Paul, hey, he sees fish like that all the time. More coming up after the break with Paul Schlafley right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in the Thumb, Sandusky, on WMIC 600 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Now look I know you're not doing any landscaping right now. In fact, the only thing you've probably been doing this winter would be maybe some snow removal or some dormant season pruning, which I did have the guys from Reader do earlier in the year. But as you look forward to springtime, you look at these maintenance projects. You know, a lot of these projects, at least at my house, they're things that I could do, but I don't want to. I would just as soon call Reader, have them send a crew of 2 or 3 young guys over. They bang it out in no time at all. They do a great job. And the thing about it is I have Reader do enough different projects for me at the house that I have one guy that I reach out to. His name is John. So I reach out to John. I say, John, here's what I want to do. He says, no problem. We'll have crews there and they'll take care of it. Reader's been doing this for more than 60 years, so you know they're doing something right. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. While you are online, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Also go over to riversidecharters.com. Riversidecharters.com, the website for, obviously, Riverside Charters. Paul Schlafley is the guy behind Riverside Charters. He's been a charter captain, a fishing guide his entire life. He's just getting ready to really fire up the winter and early spring season on the Manistee River for steelhead. Paul, you gotta be getting a little antsy. It's time to go again, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I fished the last couple of days, and it's pretty good fishing. Some nice fish around, and yeah, it's time. I'm ready. The weather's gonna break. It's supposed to be 40s this weekend, so it's should get to kick the season off here. March is coming fast, and March is generally a good strong month for steelhead, and then I might switch and try to usually ice out. I might try to get out in the big water too and get some browns. Usually pretty good brown trout fishing that early ice out. If a guy can get out there early, get on them. Last year was pretty decent early, so kind of hoping this year will be the same.
Are they stock in browns, or are these all natural fish?
The browns are stock. Yeah, I don't think we get much natural reproduction on the browns. The steelhead we do, but I'm sure there's maybe a little, but we don't get the browns, of course, like we used to back in the 80s. Like when you went with me and caught that big one, I mean, there was, big browns are caught all the time, then. And, we still get them, but it's not like it was. We keep hoping it's going to come back like it used to be, but it's good enough now. A guy can go. I mean, I had some days last year. I caught a dozen of them, 8, 10 browns, and nothing real big last year. I think I did have a nice one last year, about 17-pounder I caught, but it's hard. The big 20-pounders, you don't get them like you used to for some reason. And
yeah, Paul, don't tell me that was back in the 80s we caught that fish, because that I feel like it was 10 years ago. You're telling me the 80s? It's like that's a long time ago.
Yep, I'm thinking it was like it might have been early 90s.
Yeah,
it was when it was good. I remember the brown fishing when we caught that fish. I was off Gurney Creek when we caught it, and back then it was common. I would get limits of them, and go out and limit out on them, and I had my Cherokee, so it's probably early 90s.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
I went through a lot of boats since then, but I got a boat habit. But yeah, Yeah, it's a while, but time flies, I guess.
You said when you were out the last few days, the steelhead fishing has been pretty good. For Paul Schlafley, what is pretty good? I mean, how many fish are we talking in a day?
I'm good if I can get 8-10 landed.
Wow.
Most people are happy with that. I mean, good. I mean, real good to me is landing 20. But if I can go out, like yesterday, we landed 8 nice steelhead and lost. A handful we lost. You always seem like you lose them. Your share on steelhead, it seems like, but I get 8-10 fish. Most of my clients are pretty happy with that. There's days, like I say, there's the exception. There's days you go out and catch 15-20 of them. When they're in there, good. If there's not a ton of boats, a lot of times you get lucky and the boat traffic isn't bad and you can really get them. But there's a lot of fishing pressure anymore, so you got to do a lot more. Because the fishing's been good. There's a lot more fishing pressure too right now than there's been in the past. So you got competition on the river, but that's the way it is.
You're releasing most of your fish, right?
Yeah, we're at one fish. You only can keep one per person, and that's probably contributing to why we got such good numbers. There's no doubt it's showing. I mean, because we went, before they did this limit change, it was, you caught 8 fish. That was a banner day, and now, 8 fish are kind of common.
Wow.
Catch a landing 8 or 10. It's pretty common, of course, but so these fish are getting caught and let go. So there's I had 2 fish yesterday that had hooks in them. So them fish had been caught in the past.
Well, see, that's my follow-up question. When you get a fish that you've caught, landed, and released, do you have any sense for how long before that fish will feed again?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, I caught a fish. I had a fish on, and I had them on for a long time. And we lost them, and we went back in the same spot, and it was 10 minutes later and hooked that same fish, and I broke it off the same fish. So it's one of them things you'd have thought that fish would have never bit again.
Yeah.
But I'm saying most of the time, I think when you catch one and release it like that, they might not bite for at least a day or two. They're pretty spooky fish, A lot of times I'll go into a spot and get them good in one spot and go there the next day and I can't get a bite in there, and there's fish there. I think it's because you screwed it up the day before.
Really?
I don't know. Or they move, of course, but.
What about boat traffic? What about river traffic, boat traffic? Does that shut them down? Does that move them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you get guys in there hooking them and they get line shy, and sometimes they can get tough. That's when it gets tough. It's when you get a lot of boats and the fish are getting picked on hard and you don't have fresh fish coming in, and it can get tough then. I mean, right now you don't have a lot of boats, and I know that's going to change. I only seen 3 boats yesterday, so that's pretty light. But I'm sure this weekend that's going to be a different ballgame because people got the itch.
Sure. So if somebody has
a handful of fish, I'll be.
Yeah, if somebody has
if I can get a handful of fish when it's like that, I'll be happy.
Well, listen, Paul. If anybody's going to get him, you are. If somebody has a flexible enough schedule, should they then try to book with you during the week if possible when the crowds are down?
I would definitely. During the week's generally better. For the most part, I've seen during the week busy, but it's for the most part. Yeah, I would stay away from weekends, but some people have no choice but to fish a weekend, and I get it. And I do have some openings yet in March. I think the weather kind of got. I'm just starting. My phone's really starting to ring now, so my March is. I do have a few openings left in early April. And like I say, I'm going to probably switch gears in April and start fishing. Try for the browns. I got a different boat now I'm using for that, so I can get in early season and fish browns. I bought a huge craft I'm going to use to travel around.
You do have a boat addiction.
Yeah. I always tell my wife, that's my last boat.
Yeah, right. When you see, talking about boat traffic and people on the river and fishing weekends, when you see these younger guys breaking into the industry out there, busting their rear ends like you need to get things going, what's the relationship there? I mean, do the young guys look to guys like you, and is there information shared back and forth?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to river fishing, there might be a little bit more secret, people not I get along. I try to get along with all the captains, and there's definitely a lot of younger guys coming in the game, and that's we all want to do it. We all have a love for this sport, and it's a very addicting sport, especially steelhead fishing. And so you get that bug, and these young guys, I look at them, and I remember when I was doing it. I remember the old timers when the old timers you had to deal with. And they didn't like you there, but it is what it. You end up becoming good friends with them. Some of the old guys like Jimmy Bennett and Bud Rasky were the guys I looked up to. When it comes to river fishing, some of the guys I learned from, and the guys you really respected. So you try to respect your elders. And it's like everybody tries to get along. It's just one of the things. At least I try to. I try to be courteous to everybody.
How long did it take you fishing the river before you really felt like you had a handle on it? Is that a couple month process, or is that a multi-year process?
I think I'm still trying to learn.
No.
I don't know. It changes, and I feel like I always got to learn. And you are always learning. I don't know. You learn different spots. You learn, just it helps learn different little nooks and crannies, and it takes years sometimes to learn that nooks and crannies and of what water you're fishing. And of course now you got the live scope stuff now, and I honestly haven't got into it yet. A lot of guys are, and it does probably help you where you can see the fish. And I probably going to have to get into it. It is what I'm an old timer, so.
Well, I feel like if you could anchor off a log jam and look into it and see the fish, that would be beneficial. But like you say, Paul, you fished that log jam for forever, so there's fish in there. So maybe it's not as beneficial to you as it would be to somebody else.
Exactly. You learn spots with it quicker, I think. I got buddies that use it, and that's how they learn a lot of their spots where the fish are laying. And I get it. I do it because I fish the line. Usually the fish lay in certain spots, and dictating what the water level does too. But you learn them spots, and you fish them year after year. And it seems like the fish are always laying in them same spots. Pretty much can call it. Yeah, we're going to get one right here, and 9 times out of 10, you probably will get one right too, especially in certain spots.
That's as good as it gets right there when you call a fish.
I did that twice yesterday. I go, we're going to get one right here, bam, one hit. It does make you feel good when you do that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Paul, have a good late winter, early spring season. You get some fish, send some pictures to me. I'll post them on the Facebook page, and I'll send people to the website, riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. If you want to book a river fishing steelhead trip with Captain Paul, or an early spring brown trout trolling trip, or a summertime salmon fishing trip, go to the website, riversidecharters.com. That's riversidecharters.com. Paul Schlafley, one of the best out there. And we'll stay in touch. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. All right, thank you, Paul. When we come back, Tom Weston from the DNR talking about this new digital kill tag system that we're going to be working with. And actually, it's going to start here during the springtime turkey hunting season, which is coming up right around the corner here. So we'll talk with Tom Weston, then we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery segment. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM and north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. Now look I know you're not hunting over your food plots right now. You're not putting in food plots right now. But it's really not going to be that long before you start working that direction. I would encourage you to work with a Michigan-based family-owned company, Killer Food Plots. Rich Krazan does a wonderful job. Check out the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. And as I said earlier, we are recording this month's Killer Food Plots podcast when we get done with the show, so keep an ear out for that. Okay, so what's coming up next? In my world, the next thing coming up is the springtime turkey season. I love turkey hunting. This year, there's an option regarding tagging that bird. It's going to be a little bit different. Now, that's going to carry over into other seasons as well. To talk more about that, Tom Weston from the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Good, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, listen, it's a real pleasure. So tell me what is going on and how is this system going to work?
So hopefully, Mike, you and some of your listeners might have downloaded the DNR Hunt Fish app.
Oh, yeah.
Been around since 2022. And actually, in 24, we sold our first digital kill tags for fall turkey and had about 3,000 hunters participate and actually buy their kill tag on the app. And really, since last year, we've had over 25,000 turkey hunters buy their kill tag on the Hunt Fish app and digitally notch that tag. Now, what's new for the 2026 license year, and as you mentioned earlier, gosh, we're only 7-8 months away from deer season, is that on the DNR Hunt Fish app, you can now purchase your deer, bear, or fur-bearing animal kill tags on the app and digitally validate those tags. No need for license stock anymore.
Wow. That's a big change, Tom.
It is, and you might remember we went live with our e-license site where we actually mailed out kill tags and we mailed out various licenses. That's been around since 2000, but majority of our customers, over 80% of the folks that go to the michigan.gov/DNR website are using a mobile phone. And frankly, hunters have been asking for this for a couple of years now. Is, hey, I've got a digital tag in Wisconsin. It's easy. I've got a digital tag in Indiana and Ohio. When's Michigan going to do it? Well, when our new licenses go on sale March 1st, hunters on the Hunt Fish app can buy their deer kill tags from the app and not have to have an actual tag with you.
So we've been doing this for fishing licenses here in Michigan for a while, but of course you don't have to validate a kill tag with your fishing license.
Correct. And what's new this year is, so let's say I'm a deer hunter, as I am. I'll buy my combo license or my single deer tag on the app. I've got that license with me all the time. And when if I'm lucky enough to get a deer this fall, I'll certainly just open up the app and I will provide the same information that I've provided in the past. Let's say I shoot an 8-point buck. I'll pull out my restricted or regular tag. I'll notch the date of harvest. I'll notch the gender, and I'll notch left, right antler points. You'll do the same on the Hunt Fish app with the e-harvest tag. But what's important to note here is you don't need to have cell service. So if you're in an area where there's no cell service, you can still validate your tag. And when your phone connects to cellular coverage, it'll upload that data. And as long as that deer stays in your possession, you don't need to tag it.
No tag on the animal.
So there's one stipulation.
Yeah.
So the only stipulation is, I'm at deer camp. I'm inside eating dinner. The buck's on the buck pole. No tag. I'm at home, in the house watching TV. The buck's hanging in my garage. No tag. But when I'm not personally attending to that animal, meaning, for example, I have my buddy drive my deer to the processor because I don't have time to do it. At that point, when that deer leaves my possession, all we ask is that the hunter just grab some durable material, duct tape, whatever, and write down the license number used to harvest that animal. That's it. But if I'm coming back from deer camp in the UP, I got the buck on top of my car, don't need to tag it because I'm personally attending to the animal.
I can't wait to hear the reaction from game wardens on this one.
Well, they're in full support of it.
Oh, good.
A lot of them were shocked it took us this long to get there. But, the other advantage, like last year, I had 27,000 hunters lose their kill tags.
What?
They had to, they bought them in June. It's November 13th. They're getting ready to head to camp. They can't find their kill tags. Well, they got to go back to the retailer and replace it as lost and pay full pricing. You have a kill tag on the Hunt Fish app, you're not losing it. You know, battery power dies, sure. You lose your phone, you replace your phone, your kill tag is still there. So,
and Tom, I got to let you go because we're out of time. But this process will start with the springtime turkey season, correct?
yes, sir. Yes.
All right. Tom, I appreciate that. I find this very, very interesting. I appreciate you letting us know about it. The website for the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. And for folks who have not downloaded the Michigan Hunt Fish app yet, take a look at it. It makes things a lot easier. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question kind of follows up on this whole license issue and such, and it deals with if you get a baiting ticket, how does that affect your ability to hunt out of state? You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on stations across our great state of Michigan, including WHTC in Holland. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in, let's go to Manistee, WMLQ 97.7 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Now, you know this by now, but the Ask Avery segment is your chance to get involved in the content of the show, a topic that you've wanted to talk about, a question that you have. You can send these questions directly to me that you want me to answer, or I can pass them along to somebody else. Maybe I can have access to somebody a little bit easier than you can. The best way to get these questions to me in general is to send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And that's all across the board, whether it's Ask Avery questions or just reaching out to me in general. A good old-fashioned email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. All too often these days, I get social media messages. They're kind of a pain, and I don't always see them. So just a good old-fashioned email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Now, this question this week actually was not a result of an email, but more a result of a conversation we had during Wednesday Night Live last week. And let me explain what this is. I do 2 regularly scheduled live streams almost every week. One of them called Behind the Mic from the Outdoor Magazine radio studio, and that's live every Wednesday morning at 8:45 as I'm here in the studio getting ready to record this week's show. So those are live streamed, but you can also watch them after the fact on my social media outlets. So I do a Behind the Mic in the morning, and then every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, we do a Wednesday Night Live. Same thing. It's live streamed to several of my social media outlets. It's live, but it's also recorded for air later. And by the way, every once in a while, we do a Wednesday Night Live in person. And coming up April 15th, Wednesday, April 15th, we're going to be live at the Lumberjack Lodge in West Branch. These are very popular. People love the Lumberjack. They love that Wednesday Night Live. We will start the reservations for that on March 1st, but I will remind you as you get closer. So we were having a conversation during Wednesday Night Live last week about the issue of baiting coming back here in Michigan. And we talked about, the fact that I feel like baiting never really went away. There are a lot of people baiting. I can't because I can't afford to get caught. I don't want to get caught. It would be, I'm in favor of baiting, but I'm not going to get a baiting ticket. So the concept of the baiting ticket came up. And it was like, okay, if you get a game violation here in Michigan and it's significant enough, it can really screw up your hunting activities in Canada and across the states. Meaning, if you go out and you say you spotlight a deer after dark and you get arrested for and convicted of poaching a deer or whatever, that conviction follows you around the country. If they take away your hunting license here in Michigan, that follows you around the country. And if you try to hunt in a different state, you're not going to be allowed there. So the question was, how significant is a bait ticket here in Michigan? So I reached out to the DNR. The answer is, so the bait ticket is a misdemeanor. It could cause you some extra time at the border if you're crossing into Canada, but it would not prevent entry. As far as other states in the country, it has no bearing or effect. The only time you have issues with other states, if your hunting privileges are revoked. Here in Michigan, they are also revoked in the other states, the other compact states. However, you won't get revoked for a bait ticket. That's kind of what I thought, but I didn't want to misspeak and say that, without verifying that. A baiting ticket is a misdemeanor. I really have this gut feeling that by this fall coming up, 2026, I think the baiting tickets are going to be a thing of the past because I really see baiting coming back. Again, I don't see the DNR doing it. The DNR is maintaining their position that baiting is bad. It is biologically wrong, that it helps spread disease. They've been very firm on that, and I don't see them backing down. The concept of the DNR bringing up a bait license, that's not going to happen either because it would destroy any credibility they have in the area. If baiting comes back, it will either be from the legislature, and the state house has already approved that bill to bring baiting back. The state Senate has not, so it's not a done deal yet. Or it would come from the NRC. Now, the NRC is changing a little bit. We've got a new commissioner coming on. And I actually even saw a statement from the DNR saying we are open to the discussion of bringing back baiting. Now, that's a huge statement. For them to admit that, that's huge. But they did say, if so, we would like to see it originate from the NRC, not the legislature. And I agree. I don't want to see politicians bringing back or instituting game laws. That's not the way it should be. So thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. If you have a question, send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third hour, we're going to change gears. Well, not really change gears because we're going to talk a little bit of deer hunting. Post-season scouting with the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart, here in Hour 3 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. A little bit of a frog in my throat, a little something going on. And you know who I blame? I blame my newest grandson, Bodie. Bodie started daycare just after the first of the year. And you know how it is when those littles go to daycare. They get everything. And then they bring it home. And they bring it home to their parents. So if a little has it for like a day, the parents are going to get it. They're going to have it for 2 days. But when Grandpa gets it, it might be a week. And we were really lucky to see everybody last week. They came up for a little family get-together. And I admit to doing a little loving on Bodie and a little cuddling. And I think he might have had one of his germs sneak out of his face and jump into mine. And I can feel it now. But you know what? It was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. Oh, it's fun. It's all fun. when you get to a stage in life where you look back and you got kids and grandkids, and now I have a great granddaughter, and it's like it all kind of comes full circle, and it's all very rewarding and humbling and scary sometimes, but overall it's great. And I'll take that to the next step and bring it back here to the radio show. My reason for doing this is to try to encourage, protect, and promote this outdoor lifestyle as much as I possibly can. For whatever, hey, I'm just one guy with a big mouth and a microphone. I don't pretend to being able to change anything really with what I do, but I'm going to try. This outdoor lifestyle to me is so very important. It's personal. I look at the Avery family. I knew my grandpa very, very well. He was a hunter and an angler. My dad was a hunter and angler. I'm a hunter and angler. So there's 3 generations. My son James, hardcore. 4. My grandkids, there's 5. 5 generations right there that this outdoor lifestyle is so very important to. So to think that maybe this wouldn't continue into future generations, I can't sit back and watch it happen without trying to do something about it. I love hunting and fishing. I don't pretend to be very good at it. I will tell you this right now. I do not pretend to be an expert hunter or an angler. I love bear hunting, and I think I'm fairly knowledgeable. I love turkey hunting. I usually get a bird. Walleye fishing, you get me up in the skinny water on the right day, and I'll catch a bunch of fish. Deer hunting, not so much. I don't have the passion for deer hunting that I used to. I do it because it allows me to share the opportunity, to share the experience with my family. That's why I do it. And most days out there, I look around and go, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm hoping that a deer wanders by. That's why I have so much respect for people like a Whitetail Whisperer, a John Eberhart. I have respect for people, both hunters and anglers, who are able to look at a situation, dissect a situation, put themselves in the right position at the right time, doing the right thing for success. I don't have that ability. I enjoy the experience, but I don't pretend to have the insight. So when I have a chance to talk to John about deer hunting, or in fact, life in general, I welcome the opportunity, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line for hour number 3 of this week's show. Mr. Whisperer, welcome back. How are you?
Well, Mike, I'm doing well. It sounds like as you're aging, your immunity system is getting a little weaker.
No, don't say that. You are so wrong.
Well, then why do you get it longer than your kids and your grandkids?
Because as I get older, my immunity system's getting worse, but you don't have to bring that up.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to it. I'm 75 years old, so I can definitely relate.
I tell you what, John, you're a good 75. I mean, you get around and move around like a guy a lot younger, so congrats on that.
I work out every night.
Good for you. Good for you. Hey, talking about deer hunting, let's go back to this past season. How was your season here in Michigan and beyond?
Michigan, I took one good 8-point. I was a little disappointed in it, but it was a very nice Michigan 8-point. But I thought it was a different buck. It came behind some leaves and stuff, behind some trees, and I thought it was the buck I had on camera because I only had one 8-point on camera, and when I got an opening, I shot, and it wasn't the 8-point that I had on camera, but it was still a very respectable 2 or 3 year old 8-point. And then I shot a 146 9-point in Iowa on my second all-day hunt.
I think you sent me a picture of that one. Was that the one just before the big snowstorm came in? Yes, it was. And yeah, they got pounded with snow. And out there, that was the biggest snowstorm they'd had in years. My son stayed there and hunted for a month and a half. Whoa.
He was laid off.
Wow.
Yeah. He could have shot a lot of nice bucks, but he was after about 180-inch 15-point and saw it many times, but never within shooting range.
Hold on. 180-inch 15-point?
Yeah, on public land. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, we got multiple pictures of it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, not that it matters, and it's just kind of an aside, but I'm just curious. What's the biggest buck you've ever taken and the biggest buck you've ever targeted?
180 and 180.
Okay.
So I targeted that buck and I killed that buck. Now that was out of state. The biggest buck in Michigan I ever targeted and shot was 167. That was on public land.
Wow.
And that was public land too. And that was a state record for 5 years back in 81 through 86.
How has deer hunting changed since then, John?
Oh, everybody, not everybody, but there's a very much higher percentage of hunters that are shooting, 3-year-olds and older nowadays because management has came into the picture. There's a lot of APR, guys put APR restrictions or age restrictions on their properties, and then those deer, a lot of them leave their properties, and even get people on public land, or a lot of hunters on public land are not shooting deer until they're at least 2.5. So, lots of 1.5 get by. There's just a lot more big bucks now than there ever used to be, and so a lot more people are shooting them than the previous years. And you can relate to that, I'm sure.
I no.
Yeah.
I at this point I would not shoot knowingly a 1.5-year-old buck. Not at all. I have in the past. I've shot my fair share of them. I went into the woods, the Michigan Whitetail Woods this year, knowing my goal was to shoot a big doe because I wasn't going to see a buck that was big enough that I wanted to shoot. Do I pretend to be a trophy hunter? No. Biggest buck I've ever killed was a 150-inch 10-point, but it was in Kansas.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I see, from my position here, this little piece where I'm at in the whitetail world, I see you on one extreme. I see the guys who get to hunt 2 days a year and will shoot anything that they get an opportunity for on the other extreme. I'm somewhere.
God bless them.
Well, thank you. That's where I was going.
God bless them. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I thank you for bringing that up, because there are in the whitetail world some real snobs.
Oh boy. Yes, there is. Yeah, there's people that will shun people that shoot deer that they wouldn't shoot, but they hunt all season and they're on managed properties. Yeah, it's what? One thing that's really interesting is I was a sales rep in the hunting industry for 30 some years. And when I first started around 1990 as a sales rep, I went to almost every decent-sized store: Jay's, DNR Sports, Bob's Gun and Tackle, Frank's, Northwoods wasn't there at the time, but all of the larger stores, and every store had a cork board hanging there where they had all their customers' pictures, and it was very rare in the early 90s that I would see 1 or 2 bucks maybe over 110 inches after gun season on their corkboard. Now, went just before I retired, probably from 2015 on, when I would go in those same stores, you never saw a 110-inch buck, a smaller than 110-inch buck on their corkboard, unless it was a little kid or something. All the bucks are 110 to 140s, 150s even. So, that tells the story right there, and that puts it into perspective across the entire state. That was the same in every store I went in, where you rarely saw a buck over 110 and then on the board. And then probably from 2012, 2015 on, you saw multiple, 30 bucks that were over 110 to one whatever. So obviously people are letting deer go. More people are shooting big bucks. That's just the way it is. But yeah, I used to work in factories in Detroit. I only had 1 week or very short time frames to go up north and hunt. And God bless those guys that only get 2 days or 3 days.
There you go, John. Hang tight. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
It's almost sacrilegious to interrupt the Whisperer. But I have to. We got to take a break. We're talking with John Eberhart, Eberhart's WhitetailWorkshop.com, Eberhart's WhitetailWorkshop.com. More with John after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. You can hear us in Lansing, WILS 1320 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine, and you know what that is. That is the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. Now, I think you just heard, a spot for Rapid River knives. I'm a big fan of Rapid River knives. Things are changing there a little bit, though. That spot mentioned the promo code. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that promo code. The reason being, that promo code, and I'm not even going to tell you the numbers here, but that promo code was used an incredible amount of times, and it gave you 15% off everything in the order. Well, when you start talking the number of times that promo code was used, it cuts into a person's business. And I don't want to do that to Chris. So we're kind of we're debating what to do with the promo code. Now, the Avery signature knife with proceeds going to Outdoor Driven is still available. All of their knives are available. But the promo code might go back to just a limited time of year. So if you try to use the promo code right now, it's not going to work. It will come back, but we're just not sure in what form. And I respect Chris for continuing it, but I also want to make sure his business is viable and don't want to get in the way there. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Okay. Talking to a guy now who's spent an entire career in the outdoor industry. His name is John Eberhart, the Whitetail Whisperer, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com. But you don't want to talk to John about the business side of the outdoors. You want to hear John talk about deer hunting. And John, a lot of times this time of year, people are talking about post-season scouting. But you haven't started that yet, have you?
No, I haven't. I did scout immediately after gun season because in central Michigan we had snow on the ground. So I scouted for future late season bow hunting locations because with snow on the ground immediately after gun season, you can backtrack deer to their beds in the bedding areas because they're bedded deep in the bedding areas after gun season, and that'll give you a hint as to where you want to be hunting future seasons after gun season if you're still bow hunting. But obviously you'd have to be in your tree, super, super early to beat them into the bedding area. But overall, you don't want to do your scouting for regular, next October and November deer hunting. You don't want to do it when there is snow on the ground because snow is misleading. I have a video on my Eberhart Outdoors YouTube channel. It's video number 103. And basically it shows me going through a wooded area. I cover a lot of ground just videoing the snow. The snow had been on the ground for probably a week, and there wasn't one deer track in all of the times that I videoed. But you could see lots of buck rubs. I showed lots of buck rubs, which is just proof that, when you get snow on the ground, deer move. They don't stay in the same areas because the food sources are different. They can't browse on grasses and stuff because it's all covered up. So they move during the winter, down into areas where they're more protected from the wind and closer to whatever preferred food sources there are. And that video 103 definitely proves that. And I've done a couple other videos in the past on that as well. So you want to wait till the snow melts, and then you get a really good look at how dense the security cover really is. Right now we've had so much snow, it's bent over the weeds. A lot of times you'll walk through an area in a swamp, and the snow has packed the weeds down so much that you can't tell how tall they're going to be in the fall. And you can't see any scrapes. There's a lot of sign you can't see. You can't see last fall's runways because they're covered up with snow, and the runways you see in the snow are kind of meaningless for next fall. If you were scouting in the snow, the sign you see in the snow is meaningless for next fall's deer movements. Might be good for next year after gun season, but you need to wait for the snow to melt so you can see all the sign. And in my new book series, Ultimate Guide to DIY Bucks, I have several areas in the book. I have a complete chapter on postseason scouting and location preparation. So, but if you do, like when I did go out and I scouted immediately after, immediately after gun season for late season locations, strictly late season locations, I prepared those locations right, within the next week. Or let's say during season, you picked out a couple trees that, hey, man, I want to hunt those trees. I want to set those trees up. In the winter with snow on the ground, sure, you can go in and set the trees up. But as far as physically scouting, you want to wait till the snow's gone, because you can spook deer. You can cover every inch of the ground. Spooking deer is irrelevant. Your scent is irrelevant, as opposed to preseason scouting. And you can see everything. You can see how much security cover the trees have to offer, because typically when you're killing big bucks, it's during the rut phases when the foliage is down. So you're looking at the trees with the foliage down, immediately after the snow melts. And there's just a ton of advantages. And something else I want to mention.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a really good idea for most hunters that have locations prepared, whether it be private or you have locations you hunt frequently on public land. We had that major league ice storm, and I'll tell you what, trees fell, big branches fell. And I think it would be very advantageous, even with snow on the ground, to go out there and clean up your area, clean up your entry and exit routes. And, you may have to take a chainsaw with you. If it's a deadfall, you can cut it on public land with a chainsaw. Cut a chunk out of it that's blocking a runway, or clear branches out of runways, because it's going to be a mess this spring because so much stuff fell. I had 2 trees fall on my house.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah.
Wow. So you're saying
that's something that people might want to do, is go out and clean up your preset locations.
Okay, I want to follow up on this. Say you've got a spot that you're going to hunt from, and you've got 2 runways that go by there, and a tree falls or whatever, and it blocks one of those runways. Then that will actually change the pattern where the deer will take around there. Correct?
It depends on how close to the tree the tree falls on the runway. If it's a tall tree and it falls on a runway, yeah, they're going to not jump over the tree because it's probably going to have branches on it. And so they may have to skirt the outside edges of the tree, reroute their run. And that slight adjustment might take them out of your shooting range. And also, as far as runways feeding the location, I'll walk my runways every location I ever prepare, because I'm usually always in some kind of security cover. I walk every runway at least 50 to 100 yards and clean them up in the spring on all my presets or all my public land locations. Clean them up so that the runways don't get altered by stuff falling and blocking.
That's interesting. I'd never thought of that, taking it to the next step and making sure that the area, the runway, the trail leading into your hunting spot is clear.
Yes, correct.
Huh. You did say something earlier. I think you may have misspoken, because you talked about clearing your shooting lanes now. John, we all know that the appropriate time to clear a shooting lane is just before the season starts.
No, we don't all know that. I always clear, anytime I prep a location or go back in the spring to regroom an old location, because I always do those in the spring. Yeah, I clear my shooting lanes before the end of April.
Do you go back late summer though and check them, because you might, you're going to get some growth and stuff that might interfere, or do you trim them back enough in the spring you don't worry about it?
I trim it back enough in the spring that I don't have to worry about that summer's growth. Correct.
You mentioned...
Yeah, I do not want to go to any of my locations during preseason, because interruptions to a location in Michigan are very detrimental to your success.
Can you get away with 1 or 2, or are you saying nothing?
1 or 2, what do you mean?
Intrusions.
In my opinion, if you're hunting for 3.5-year-old and older bucks, you can't get away with anything. Those deer, those mature bucks, they've been through a couple gun seasons, and they've been left alone all spring, all winter, all summer, and all of a sudden they know what human intrusions mean. Human intrusions are a threat to their existence, just like somebody walking through a crime-laden inner city Chicago area. That's dangerous. Well, they know humans are dangerous, and as soon as there's an influx of human activity, they take on more nocturnal habits until the rut phases start, and then they also move back into denser bedding areas. They may not be bedding out in the ferns during the early season or in more open or peripheral edges. Your presence will push them back, and odds are they won't come out of the bedding area until after dark. They may get up and move in the bedding area before dark because they feel secure. They could hear anything that would have been close to them. So they usually get up and move a little bit before dark in the bedding area, but they usually don't leave the bedding area until after dark if they're 3.5 years old and older in pressured area.
So these older
I hope
bucks.
That makes sense.
No, it does. No, it does. And I was just kidding about the going in just before season.
Yeah.
So the tolerance of these older bucks, the bigger bucks that you target, they have less tolerance for sure. Have you ever had a situation where you had an opportunity at a nice buck and something went wrong? Maybe you actually blew it. I don't even know if that happens at this point. Will you ever get a second shot, a second chance at that buck?
Oh, my God. It's funny you should say that. The 180-incher, my biggest buck I ever shot, I got a second chance the same day. But that was out of state.
Yeah.
That was out of state, and that buck came in at about 4 o'clock, and he was checking a big scrape area from downwind. And I guessed, he came in so fast I didn't have time to pull out my rangefinder, and I guessed him at 40 yards, so I held my pin a little bit high. I did stopped him. I did a little doe mat, and when I shot right above his lungs and below the spine, and he was actually at about 35 yards when I ranged the spot he was standing. So I shot a little bit high. And he turned around, ran into some heavy security cover about 80 yards away, and I wanted to kill myself. It was the biggest buck I'd ever seen, and it was the buck I was targeting. And anyway, later that afternoon, just before dark, about half hour before dark, rattle sequence, and that same buck came back out, and I shot him at 12 yards in the
I got to follow up on this, but I got to take a break. Can you come back for the coveted third segment?
Sure.
The Whitetail Whisperer sticks around for the coveted third. I have to follow up on that story. And we will do that with the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com, or Eberhart Outdoors on YouTube. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw, WSGW, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. Do you hear this? Charlie, 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 Charlie. You know what they're doing? They're chanting for Charlie Rude, who's in here in the studio with me. Now, Charlie last week, well, you weren't in here. John was in here last week. But it was so cold last week that I would not have expected a crowd. But it's warming up, and you can expect nothing but more and more people. I mean, we routinely get families who show up here. I mean, they take the kids out of the station wagon. They set up a little picnic. Station wagon, remember that term? Charlie. They love Charlie. Charlie Rude, great guy, great friend, and a great partner here on the radio show. I appreciate that, Charlie. I also appreciate the fact that the Whitetail Whisperer, Johnny Eberhart, is sticking around for the coveted third segment. Now, John, I did not intend to do that, but you started telling this story about this 180-inch buck that you got a second chance at. I got to go back to this here. Did I hear you correctly that you hit that buck? You hit him in no man's land on that first shot?
Yes. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, congratulations on a signature knife. That's a nice achievement.
Oh, yes.
But yes, I did hit him with the first shot. Obviously, I used a 35-yard pin on a 40-yard shot, so I aimed it a few inches high, and that's exactly where I hit. So he was only 35 yards, and And probably 2 hours later, when I rattled, I saw a big buck come out of the brush exactly where he went in, and about 80 yards away, and he started coming towards me, and it never even entered my mind it could be the same deer. I just saw a big frame because it was getting late, and when he got about 40 yards, 30 yards away, heading right to the scrapes after I did a rattle sequence, and it was an aggressive sequence. I saw my hole. I saw the frickin' hole in the side of the deer. And he came right in and started working the scrape 2 hours after I had previously shot. And that's the only time in my career I've ever had a second shot at a deer. Yeah.
It is amazing to me how tough, how resilient those critters are.
He was in full rut mode. It was post-rut because I was out there, like late November, and his eyes were all glassed over. He'd been rutting. He'd probably lost 40 pounds, and he was still in rut mode. And because it was post-rut, there wasn't a lot of does coming into estrus anymore. He wanted to breed, and when I did that doe mat, he came right out. And,
wow.
Or I mean, did the rattle sequence, he came right out, and I didn't even have to mat that shot because he was literally standing broadside in the scrape when I shot him at 12. And he went 40 yards and fell over.
Redemption.
Now, hey, can I mention a couple things?
Of course.
Okay, I'm going to do a Eberhart Outdoors YouTube video, and it's going to be on people asking questions, and I'll probably post that this week. So if they do a reply, ask me questions, and then I'm going to do other YouTube videos answering questions. So if anybody's interested, I'll probably post that initial video before Friday. And then another thing is I'm also selling, I'm just starting, I just had it posted this week, on my website at deer-john.com, or the one you mentioned, whitetailworkshops.com. I'm going to be selling my new book series, and they're going to be signed. So, they're available on Amazon and through Tethered, but I'm going to be selling signed books on my website. So just wanted to mention that.
No, and I appreciate that. And does the deer-john.com, or I've actually just done deerjohn.com, does that take you to the same website as Eberhart's Whitetail Workshop?
It does now. I had a major glitch for about 2 months where it was not working, and I got it fixed. So now the deer-john.net works.
That is .net or .com?
.net.
I'm going to find out right now. Deer.net.
And the name of that book series is Ultimate Guide to DIY Bucks, by the way. Did it come up?
Nope. But I tried a little trick here because I thought I could get into it with just Dear John instead of Dear hyphen. People are finding this so fascinating right now as I just scroll the internet here.
Well, do you want me to sing while you're doing that?
No. A little musical interlude by the Whitetail Whisperer. Okay. Deer-john.com. Oh, but
.net.
But it says under construction. Let me go to a .net then. I guess I should have done this beforehand, huh?
Yeah, it's got to be .net. I just did it before I came on, and it worked.
Okay, it does. Deer-John. So deer-john.net takes you to Eberhart's Whitetail Workshop. Okay.
Yeah, or if they just Google my name, I'm sure the website would pop up.
If you bring up John Eberhart, if you Google John Eberhart, you're going to get all kinds of deer stuff, that's for sure. John, always a pleasure. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your flexibility and giving us more time. The website, deer-john.net. Eberhart's Outdoors on YouTube. The new book series, the YouTube questions. John's got a lot going on. John, appreciate your time. We'll talk again soon.
Trying to fill up my retirement. Thank you, Mike.
Retirement. That is something I will never enjoy because I don't ever want to retire. All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. John retired from his job, but he'll never retire from hunting. Dixie Dave Minar wrapping it all up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name's Mike Avery. It's amazing the types of things that make you excited. I'm editing the promo for this week's show here during the break, and it came out to exactly the right time. And I looked at Charlie and said, "That's a thing of beauty." And he's like, "Well, I think you're overstating it." No, Charlie, it's a thing of beauty. 24 seconds on the nose. Oh, it is a joy, it is a pleasure, it is a blessing to be able to continue to do this for as many years as I have and still love it, still have a passion for it, still enjoy the people that I work with, including, of course, wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar, who helps us wrap up each week's show. He's with us once again. David, welcome back.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Really good. A lot better than last week.
Can I ask what happened?
I just took a tumble. I got my foot caught in the carpet and the rug, and fell against the couch, and I think I cracked or bruised some ribs. But I'm well on the way to healing.
Oh, well, I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm glad you're feeling better. I knew it was not good because, Dave, you've called us from the parking lot of ER while you were having a heart attack, so I knew it wasn't good.
Right. It had to be. I felt really tough.
Well, I'm glad you're doing better. How about a recipe for us this week?
Well, we have lake trout Italiano, and we also used to sell this recipe at the restaurant with trout and walleye and red snapper at Oscar and Joey's. And I also made this recipe for sheephead, if you remember correctly, when we did this, when we were touting the joys of sheephead.
I do remember that.
So, okay, this is for 4 portions. So you need about 8 ounces of boneless, skinless filet per person. If you scale it real good, you could leave the skin on some of these fishes. It just depends. Walleye, you could leave the skin on, and the lake trout also, if you scale it real good. So you need a cup each of sliced mushrooms, onions, and green peppers, sliced kind of a medium thickness, actually fine to medium. 8-ounce package of shredded mozzarella cheese, a couple of cans of California tomatoes diced, or if you want them whole, you could hand crush them and save the juice on the side because you might need it. 4 to 6 cloves of garlic, chopped up real fine. Anchovies goes in a lot of dishes in Italian food that you wouldn't think so, but you don't have to use this as an optional. But in the restaurant, we always used anchovies, and nobody was none the wiser. A medium onion diced fine, a couple of tablespoons of parsley chopped fine, a quarter of a teaspoon of basil, and a quarter of a teaspoon of oregano, or you could use a half a teaspoon of Italian spice if you have that in your pantry. Some olive oil and coarse grated pepper over all the fish before you do anything with it. So in a medium-sized pan with heat oil to a medium hot temperature, and add the garlic, onions, anchovies, and spices, stirring continuously for 2 to 3 minutes, or even a little longer, depending on, you want the onions just to become transparent. You can add the canned tomatoes, less a lot of the liquid, because you want to reduce this down. So you can save the liquid from the tomatoes in case you reduced it too much. You want to simmer this about 10 minutes or so is all. Then place the fillets on a lightly greased baking sheet, skin side down, top with some mushrooms and pepper, grate pepper over all of it. Spoon sauce over fish and top with mozzarella cheese on the baking sheet, and make like little piles of fish. Bake for about 10 minutes because the fish going to cook through, because we're using thinner fillets, so maybe a little bit longer. Say if you had a nice big chunk of red snapper, you probably want to go 15 minutes. And take a couple of spatulas, one on each end of each package, and set it out on your serving plates, because the fish is going to be pretty flaky, so you want to support it as much as you can so you get the high appeal. And we used to sell this at the restaurant, like I said, with walleye, red snapper, and we made this for the radio show one time with sheep's head.
Yeah. Although, and we're not going to say it, but you didn't call him sheephead.
No.
David, looking at my
I
list.
always kept them. When I had a boat and I trolled a lot, I always kept my sheep's head.
People love them. Some people absolutely love them. And I'm just looking at the list here of recipes that I have video for. I do have video of this one, so I will be posting this one online as well.
I cross-referenced it to the list that you gave me.
Excellent. So you're a step ahead of me. Perfect. All right, David, we will look forward to that. People can see it online. They can also enjoy your cooking at the King's Dish in Standish. Remind me the days.
Yep. We're right on the corner of M61 and US 23, right there in the southeast corner.
And what days are you there?
I'm there Friday and Saturday until we get some more business, and then I'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday once the tourist season hits.
Perfect. All right, David, always a pleasure. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do the show. And I don't know what I would do. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. There's also a podcast version of it. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Love to hear from you. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.